Hello everyone. I wanted to show you something about discussion activities in your course shells and how to get all of the points for them, or at least as many as you possibly can. The first thing is, discussion activities are important for the following reasons. First, this is where your professor's professional experience shines through. This is something that's beyond the scope of the actual course but makes the course more enriching. And second, you also learn from the knowledge and experience of your classmates because you're discussing amongst yourselves and you find out interesting things about each other. Secondly, discussion activities count as academic events with respect to your attendance in the class. This is especially important if you're taking a course that uses the Pearson environment. So for example, Math 062, English 062, those use my math lab, my English lab, my IT lab, things like that. Those my lab types of activities, because they're not actually in the core shell but on another server, do not count as academic events. And your attendance is based on academic events. So this is why you really need to be doing the discussion activities in the class. So, what will you be graded on? As you probably already know, you're graded on the frequency of your posts and the quality of your posts. Specifically, Devry policy says that you must post a minimum of 3 separate days per week in each graded discussion activity. So, for example, if you have 2 discussion activities that week, you have to post 6 times at least. 3 for one and 3 for the other, and on 3 separate days. So you can post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in both of those. The other important thing is that your first post has to be no later than Wednesday. I encourage you to do it earlier because that way you can get all of your posts in before everyone else has pretty much already covered everything. Secondly, is the quality of your posts. They have to be substantive posts. So you might ask, what is a substantive post? Okay, here's some examples. You can, obviously you need to continue the discussion. You can't just dead end it. And you can't just say, good job, or great post, nice video. These don't count. You need to actually add something to the conversation. And that includes additional information to the discussion. You can elaborate on what someone else said. Talk a little bit more about the concepts. I'm not going to read all of these to you. But here is something that's really important. Providing appropriate sources and a link or an explanation for an area you researched on the internet. A lot of students, they find some information on the internet based related to the topic, and what they do is they copy it and they paste it into a discussion thread, and that does not count. That's actually considered plagiarism. If you're going to do that, you must cite where you got this and put the copied text into quotes per the plagiarism and academic integrity guidelines. Okay, so here's some hints for getting full points on a post. First thing, when you make a post, you personalize it. In other words, you address the person to whom you're speaking. Secondly, you expand on what that person said. And you add to it. You acknowledge what they said and then you add to it. Third is to provide a hook. And what this does is give other students an opportunity to respond to you. And what you'll find, especially in online classes, is that you will have you'll develop discussion buddies. There are a few students you can always count on to respond to you, and you can always respond to them. And it's a good idea to form these relationships, that way you get all of your posts in, and also it helps elevate the entire discussion. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Suppose the discussion question is, what color is the sky? Pretty simple. Alright, now suppose Fred, who's your fellow student, says, the sky is blue. This is a dead-end post, actually. It's not a good post, but you're going to put a good post in. First of all, you personalize. You respond to Fred. So you say, Fred, comma. And then you acknowledge what Fred said. I agree with you that often the sky is blue. In fact, I've seen many blue skies, so you're adding your own experience here. However, sometimes the sky can be pink or green, so you're adding something additional to the discussion. And finally, down here you have the hook. Has anyone else seen a green sky before? This gives other students an opportunity to respond to you, and then you can respond back to them, and you have a discussion going. Now, I'm going to show you how this looks in your course shell. Alright. So I'm bringing up a course shell here. Okay, this is Canvas. Now I'm actually bringing up one of my shells to show you where the discussions are for each week. So you go to the modules, and in the modules, when it comes up, you will see, okay, you normally have these introduction or resources. Scan a little bit further down into the first week material. Okay, so here's week 1. Here's your lesson, team case analysis. My class has a team case analysis. Here are discussion activities. Okay, this week, in week 1, you have 2 of them. One is introductions, which is fairly standard in Devry courses. And second is an actual discussion activity. You need to do both of those. And remember, 3 posts per discussion on 3 different days. So let's go to this question. Alright, so this is the discussion question. You notice up here it has a number of points for the discussion and when the last day is due. And remember, the assignments are due Sunday night at the end of the week by midnight Mountain Time. I'm in Eastern Time, that's why it says 1:59 p.m. or a.m. Alright, so you will notice 2 things here. First of all is a link. That's where you respond to the discussion question, which is this. Secondly, you can just subscribe to a discussion. You can click on here. Once you're subscribed, what this means is that if you've set up any kind of alerts in Canvas, for example, I get a text every time somebody responds to the discussion thread. Okay. So let's suppose I'm responding directly to this question. I'm going to hit reply, and I have this rich text plus some embedded media if I want to do that, and I can say professor and class. Okay, so that's the personalization. There are several applications. I'm answering the question, right? Okay, so I'm responding to the question. Now I need to add a little more to it. I found that database analysis is very common in something silly like very common in industry. Now I add the hook. Do any of you have or use large databases in your jobs? Okay, so I have here personalize it, answer the question, a part of it at least, and do any of, and then add the hook. So you notice this particular discussion question has two pieces to it. You can make that two separate posts. So once you've done that, you post the reply. If you want to attach something, you can. For example, an image. If you want to put a link into your discussion post, you can. This is where you want to put a URL. It's there. Some students put URLs to YouTube videos, things along those lines. Okay, so I'm going to post this. There's my post. Great. Now, if you want to respond directly to the question, again, you click this reply button here. If, on the other hand, you want to respond to this post, you click this reply button. And let's suppose I really like that post too. I can click this reply button, and then I say, Kate, let's see, I agree. Database analysis is very common in industry. So I'm acknowledging what they said. We use an SAP database at my job. Alright, and so then you can go ahead and answer whatever. Now again, you can put in a hook. I'm not going to bother typing out, but insert hook here. Okay. So I'm going to post reply. Now what I want you to notice here is that your reply comes at the same level as the original post here, and they're attached to each other. Now if somebody came in and said another post to the original question, okay, that's not a good post, but I'm trying to make a point here. Okay, you will notice there's a gap between these. This means that this is one thread here related to this first post, and this starts a second thread, and both of them answer the original question. So pay attention to that. It's not always intuitive. If you have unread posts, you will see a solid blue dot here. If you've already read the post, it's a hollow dot, a white dot. Okay, so that are discussion threads in a nutshell.